What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Welcome to another video from Oso Simplified, coming to you with a video here about do things that feed your soul. And this topic is really just coming up. I'll layer it in as I go through. Definitely just confirmed on this will be my fourth fight in MMA. It's going to be happening in a few weeks. And just kind of thinking a lot about how that's like one interrupted my schedule, and also like why I'm doing it, and a lot of those things is really the main thought process this came out of. And the first part is really that you only have one life to live. Now in this day and age, there are a lot of things that you're fed in terms of the way that you're supposed to be living your life. You're supposed to, go to school, get a job, have some kids, buy a house, XYZ. Now, I've done some of those things. I've gone to school, I've gotten a job, I got a house, didn't do the wife and kids thing at this point, but I digress. But there's a general script in terms of how you're supposed to live, and in general, when you look at most people, they don't look happy. I don't know how else to really explain it. Specifically when I actually commute into New York. It's like, see all these people, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably one of them in terms of the way I look. I get in there, go to sleep on the train, wake up to freaking zombie walk over to where I'm working. As well, whenever it's, I'm working from home, same deal. I'm waking up early to go work out, to, hold off until I have to, make it to my desk and start doing things for, the day to day in terms of what allows me to subsist in life in general. Now, obviously, there are necessities of behaviors in terms of doing things that are going to allow you to, live a life at all. Obviously, we live in a monetary focused society, so that is definitely has to be your focus as well if you want to participate in the things society provides. However, if you do take a kind of like a larger scale view of your life and what matters to you, you'll generally find that most of what you care about is only important because you are you. And over time, even this house I lived in, I'm sure there's other people that lived in this house, fought and, tried to protect having this house, to fix things, to pay bills, to do XYZ. And I'm pretty sure, because this was built in like the 50s, probably the first people are dead. They're dead. I'm just a random stranger living in their house. All of the things that they complained about while they were in here, all that has, ceased to exist, has passed on, and ultimately it puts into perspective how you're spending your days and your years. And I know this is probably slightly redundant if you're actually listening to all of the videos I put out, in the sense of really being cognizant of how you're spending your time, because you only get one time to do it. At some point, everything, you're going to be forgotten. I remember I was listening to somebody say this. They were like how well do you even know your grandfather's father? And that's, if I do that math, that's not even 100 years that person was alive. I have no idea who either one of my great grandfathers were. And that's how fast you're going to be forgotten. Everything you do is going to be forgotten. And with that in mind, did you enjoy your life? Because nobody's sitting around here trying to make sure that they can remember your particular life. So even though there are certain things you have to do to be a part of society, always keeping in mind what you want and things that feed your soul and your spirit that are coming from, deep down within, are very important. Which gets me into the second point, which will kind of really jump into where I am with this. So I'm going to definitely say not everything's monetarily focused. Now, I work in sales, so I work in a very revenue first type of mindset. So I want to throw that out there, because a lot of the things I'm going to talk about sound like I would be doing something completely opposite to that. So I've definitely spent a lot of days focusing on revenue, bringing in revenue, closing revenue, things of that sort. However, when you really break down life, it's really not all about money. There is definitely a certain amount of money that I want to make, and then after that I would be functionally retired. I might work on a few businesses that give me pleasure, but in terms of making money for the sake of making money, I do have a number in mind. Once I reach that number, I'm going to, for lack of a better term, stop chasing and trying to, get large amounts of it, because it really won't matter at that point. And I think that's really contrary to a lot of what you see on YouTube. It's like all this like hustle, 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 hustle. And on my new channel, I might actually break down one of these, because it was like, if you're into some of the Manospherean type of circles out there, the Fresh and Fit had a little round table, and they had this guy Wes on there, and there was basically this argument between him and this like super religious Christian guy, and essentially the dude Wes, who like came from prison's whole point was like, you need to be making money, you need to be freaking ripped, and you need to, I forgot what the other one, but it was like, basically that was his whole thing, was like, the whole point of life is just making all this money and being ripped, and I don't want to have any good experiences. I'm not worried about ever having fun or ever playing or ever doing anything like that, because all that's important is making money and being jacked. And to me, that just doesn't resonate at all. Like, the only reason I want any money is so that I can stop feeling pressured by the need of having money. But that's the main point. Like, it's not, money in itself means nothing to me, and it has no value to me. It only has value in the trust that I know that other people want it, and I know I can exchange things in order for me to experience a full life. Like, a la the Science of Getting Rich, you need to have money in abundance to do that. However, but the things that actually give me real joy, besides like a fleeting joy, would be things like my MMA. And a lot of this really came Saturday. I was a little stressed out with some of the things I got to do with my job and work. It's a very demanding job, very a lot of pressure, obviously, since it's focused on bringing in revenue. And I do a 5-hour practice every Saturday morning, and it's not the easiest or most pleasurable. From like, if you checked in with me at any point, I probably would not be giving you glowing reviews about how I feel. But just the ability to see how my body can move, push my body to the limit, work on different techniques, work on different setups, interacting with the different people that are there, whether that's, from a sparring context, a drilling context, a learning context, a teaching context. I can feel like intrinsically there is a value I'm getting from just being there, being around people, sharing like the activity itself, but then also the knowledge and the topics that we're covering from, intellectual and a physical basis. All of that stuff is actually something that's building me up, that I'm not getting. I'm paying for this experience, and I'm fighting in the amateurs. I'm essentially paying to fight another trained individual in a cage. And it's like, why am I doing that? And it really just comes down to simply because it is something that is feeding my soul. Like, it's something that is helping me out beyond the material realm, and it's giving back much more than any material gain could give. And if you don't really have something that you're doing on a daily basis that's giving back into you, I think you have to be in a position where you're like anxious all the time, because there's no grounding, there's no focus. And that's really what this kind of like video is really meant to implore, is finding things that actually fill your soul up with, just a feeling of fulfillment, that you're actually doing something that you want to do, that you want to get better at, that you want to move forward at, that's not for very superficial reasons, like just to have money, just to be freaking jacked so other people like respect you because you look jacked. Like that type of mentality, I think, is kind of what's wrong with part of the society. A lot of this hustle culture, I think it's getting away from what you're hustling for. Like, it's the example of, if you're playing basketball, if the ball is a loose ball, yeah, hustle to get the ball. If somebody shoots, you miss, and you got to get to the other side of the court, yeah, you got to hustle. But if the ball is out of bounds, you're not hustling, running back and forth just to run. You're not like just shooting arbitrarily at baskets just to shoot. You should be systemic and systematic in terms of what you're trying to achieve, and then also what the things you're doing need to have a purpose. So at some point, we do live in a monetary world. You do need to make money, but you have to find a way to carve out things that are going to pay you back, like psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever words you want to use. And the last part on this is really just kind of more getting into like how you want to spend the days of your life. Like it's really, I kind of, this one's a little free form. I kind of was touching on it before in the last point, but like how do you want to spend your life moving forward? Because one, your life is finite. As I mentioned before, 100 years from now, wherever you're living, strangers are going to live there. All of the arguments you're having while you're in that space are going to be basically of nobody's concern. So living yourself for your life, there's nobody that's going to live it for you if you're not. Number one, the viewpoint of life just being about accumulating things, making money, doing things that society deems as great, I think is something that needs to be investigated a little bit more thoroughly on an individual basis of like, what are you trying to actually get out of it? And then ultimately just really understanding that there's no script on life. Like we're fed a lot of scripts. We're fed a lot of ways that things are supposed to be. And whenever you go on YouTube and you listen to anything, there's all of these things about how it's supposed to be, whether this is how you get ripped, this is how you eat nutrition, this is how you talk to a girl, this is how to start a business, this is how to invest your money, this is how to buy real estate. And it's all pitched to you as if there is no other way to do it. And that's the biggest load of crap that you're getting on the internet, is that there's a million ways to skin a cat. Now, obviously you can get certain advice from certain types of people, but the idea that you have to do things a certain way just because society or other people say it is not true. And that also doesn't remove you from the responsibility of figuring out how to make things happen if you want them to happen in the way that you want to do. Like, just because I want to spend my time fighting MMA doesn't mean I can just quit my job and just start fighting. I have to figure out a way to develop things within society to make that happen. So that's what I'll leave it with, because I think that's kind of bringing the point all full circle. If you like the content, like, comment, subscribe. If you don't like, leave a dislike, leave some negative comments. Any feedback will do. And until next time, you know what it is. Peace.